5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to Washington, D.C., Kenize Mourad. Do people call you princess, or what makes people approach you as a princess?
No, some people, but not too many. Some people, but usually, they call me, as a journalist, I've been a journalist in a center-left paper, so obviously they call me Kenize. And Murad, by the way, is just my pen name. I took it from Sultan Murad, my great-grandfather, but in fact my mother was a granddaughter of the Sultan, and so my real name is the name of my father, who is an Indian Raja. And why I took this name, when I began journalism, I wrote my first article, and I was asked, what do you want to sign? And my full name is long, and there's an aristocratic name with the etc. And I felt, in a center-left or leftist paper, I should not have this sort of name, which was wrong because the left love aristocrats. But I felt also that this poor great-grandfather of mine, Sultan Murad, had spent in life in jail. House of arrest, really, but really in very bad. And I wanted to give him a new life. So that's why I took his name.
Okay. You were living in Paris, and in 1941, I think you lost your mother, but you did grow up in a Catholic environment. How did that happen?
So, I was born in Paris. My mother died when I was about one year and a half. And I was brought up, in fact, by Catholic nuns. In fact, it's a long story, but if you want to know a little, the eunuch who was following my mother all over, when she died, took me to the Swiss embassy, where they were taking care of the orphans during the war. It was the war. And these people were very nice, and they kept me for a few years, and they wanted to adopt me. But after the war, my father in India wanted me back. But it was taking time, so they left me in the school, Catholic nuns school, where I had begun to go. And I stayed it was not a boarding school, but I stayed in that school. And when my father asked for me, the nuns had become so, they loved me so much that they felt this nice little girl should not go to a terrible Muslim father. Of course, Muslim, he was terrible, obviously. So what they did, they hid me, sent me in the countryside, told my father they did not know where I was, they did not know me. And they made so many problems. My poor father, so many, and he had married again, he has sons, so girl was less important. And then finally I was brought up totally by Catholic nuns. Any Catholic surrounding, Catholic family. I knew my prayers in Latin. And till I became an adolescent, I began to rebel because I knew who I was. I always knew who I was. But I was told my father was a nasty man, I should not go there. But I wanted to go there. I was dreaming of this father. And finally, when I was 21 years old, which was the age of majority at that time, not 18, 21, I got the address of my father. I wrote to him, and I went to see him in India. And I met my father and my country, India, which is my paternal country. Turkey is my maternal, at the age of 21.
Mm-hmm. How did you discover your Muslim heritage? Under what conditions?
Exactly, I don't remember, but I remember I was, of course, looking for my Muslim heritage. I discovered because I was looking for my roots. And obviously, from mother's side and father's side, they were Muslims. And I was in revolt against these Catholic nuns who had kept me nice, but also they kept me without me wanting it really. And then I got interested. I remember the first time I arrived in a Muslim country. I was 21, and I went to Algeria, I think. I think it was Algeria, or Tunisia. Anyway, it was North Africa. And I felt at home. This atmosphere, which was so different, which was much warmer, which was, it was not, there was, of course, I'm not talking of veils and all that, there was not that, but, the relationship between people was to me more. I felt at home, and when I went to India, I must say something. That India, as you know, is a continent with so many cultures. I don't feel. I mean, to me, Hindus, even if I admire them, their culture, I can admire a few things, but it's stranger to me. But in Muslim India, I feel at home. It's very strange. I don't know from where it comes. Obviously, Turkey also I feel at home, but for many other reasons also. So I began to read a lot about Islam, but through Sufi texts, of course. So meaning the enlightened Islam, the mystical Islam, where in fact all religion, this sort of substrata, where all religion meet on the same values, and the rest, the difference are rather superficial to me, I feel. I feel that different religions are different ways to reach the truth. Mm-hmm. Or if one wants to call it God, or want to call it the truth, or the eternal being. But different religions are cultural things in different continents, different countries, but there are different ways to reach the truth to me.
Mm-hmm. You did write a book on Istanbul, which is very interesting. But also, when did you first go to Istanbul or Turkey, and how did they respond to you?
It was very interesting how I came first to Turkey. I came first to Turkey as an air hostess of Air France. Imagine. I had no money. As you know, the family has been sent out without a penny, just the money for the travel. My grandmother lived selling her few jewels in Beirut in a difficult way. My mother had to get married to a rich, as all my aunts, they were all married to rich men, which does not mean they were the men they would have wanted. But they had to get married because they were very poor. Everybody was very poor. Well, my mother was lucky because my father was good looking and quite educated. So, I'm sorry, the question was
how they responded to you in Turkey once you went there.
First I came to Turkey. I had to earn my living. At that time, I was 25, I think. I'd more or less finished studies. And I arrived as an air hostess. And when I put my foot on the earth of Turkey, on the tarmac, I felt like kissing it. Of course, I could not do it. It would have been ridiculous, but I felt like that. And I was going, we had 2 days, and I was going to shops where there were all sorts of old things. And the man, the shopkeeper was telling me, oh, this is a Tura. We had sultans here. We had sultans. And I was feeling so bad because, of course, I looked like a French tourist. And I remember revisiting the palace of Topkapi, I think, yes, Topkapi. And there was an old guide, and I was in a group of people. And I was, touching things which were maybe my ancestor, grandmother, great-grandmother had touched. And he was saying, you have no right to touch anything, you have no right. Till we arrived, and I was feeling very sad. And we arrived feeling completely foreigner, in my own family, own country. Then we arrived in the gallery of the portraits of the sultans, and there he says something about the sultans, and he said something about Murad V. And I said, no, it's not this, it's not that, it's something else, it's that. And he looks at me and says, how do you know? And I said, well, he's my great-grandfather. So the man was like, and he said, he came to me, kissed my hand, called all the old guys, the young did not mind, but the old guys, and they were all around me, and I felt adopted. I felt I had, found my Turkey again. And that was very, even when I talk of it, I feel like crying. It was very moving. Mm-hmm. So apart from that, after I came back to Turkey quite a few times, my problem, I don't speak Turkish. I've been working a lot, and I'd never had time really to learn Turkish. It's a very difficult language, I feel. because the roots are so different. I tried to learn. For 1 month I was in Turkey, I learned a little, came back to Paris for 10 months, came back to Turkey, I'd forgotten everything. So I got a little discouraged. It's a pity. I would love to speak Turkish, but I suppose I should have learned when I was young. Now it's a little difficult.
Well, you were a reporter, but then you did write a book which sold 1 million copies and translated into
Not
30
1
plus
million,
languages.
5-6 million.
5-6 million by
Yeah.
now. Okay. So what made you pick up this life of a novelist?
I was a journalist. I love to be a journalist. I was war correspondent, and I did this for the same reason I became a writer. I wanted to make. I would never have written as a journalist about France or Europe. I did not. I wasn't so interested. I wanted to explain to the Western people, French people, the Eastern people, because there's so much prejudice, so much misunderstanding. I've myself been, a result of prejudice, as I said about the nuns. And so I really wanted to try to be a little, drop of water, or a little stone, trying to make a bridge between both worlds. And today I think it's still much more important because they are becoming more and more separated and more antagonized towards each other. So I did journalism for a long time, and then I found that it was too quick, too superficial, and I began to want to write books, to do deeply into history, into psychology, so that one could really explain more what's happening. And I would never write about Europe. I'm not interested. I write about Pakistan, India, Turkey, Lebanon, all these countries, this Middle East, which I feel very near to, and of course also the Indian subcontinent.
Mm-hmm. You had a break of 25 years to write your second book, and it says
No. No. I wrote the first book. The first book appeared in 87.
Mm-hmm.
87, yes. I had a break of 10 years for my second book.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult when you have such a huge success, international. You feel that everybody is expecting you at the corner. And it's very difficult. Some people have never recovered from a big success. I know some people who had a prize, big literary prize for the first book, they never were able to write again. Because you know that everybody is expecting you. So I wrote the second book, which is more about India. And it is also a novel, but it's really very much taken from my experience. Mm-hmm. And it is really the search for identity between East and West, of a young girl who is from Eastern origin and who is brought up in Europe or in France. So it has a lot to do with me, but it's a novel, but very much on the. So I developed that book as a search for identity and what is identity, etc., etc. So that was a book. Then after that, quite a few years after again, I wrote a book about Palestinians and Israelis. Mm-hmm. It was during the second Intifada. And I was so enraged to see what was written, which was so again, biased. So I wanted to write a book, but I did not want to write myself. I wanted the people to express themselves. So it's a book of interviews and portraits of ordinary people, Palestinian and Israeli. And I refused to interview Arafat. He was still alive at that time, because I did not want to have politicians talking, always. Politicians never say anything interesting because they always have, their prepared speech. And so I interview all sorts of women, children, old people, and it's a fascinating book. But because it is very gripping. It is very gripping, and it tells you, you understand. So many people told me, well, we never understood. We see 100 dead here, 50 here, and now we understand what it is about. But this book brought me a lot of problems. Since this book, I've been boycotted by the press in France. My last book, which is about India, I did not have, I had always television, I had always big papers. I did not have one television, one big newspaper. It sold because people know my name, but it did not sell. You know, many people did not even know I had written this book because there was no media. So I'm paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
I would not mind if this book had been used by the Palestinians for their cause because it was a very good tool. But they did not because, you know, it's very difficult. The bureaucracy, all this is sometimes heavy.
Mm-hmm. Your impressions of Turkey as a final question. Do you find a continuation in the Turkish life in the Republic, or is it like a rebirth? Do they discuss these issues with you about transition from an empire to a republic?
You mean now, what's happening now? From a republic to an empire? You know, I think when one talk of neo-Ottomanism, I don't agree with that at all. When at the time one's thinking was one talking of having Turkey being the leader of the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. I told on television, it's ridiculous. This is really not to know at all the Arab people. Arab people feel they have been submitted by the Turks. We are not so bad after all to them, but they feel, you know, they have been submitted and they have taken their freedom. It's not now to go and ask the Turks for advice and ask the Turks for their leadership. This is absolutely ridiculous. It can't be. If one knows a little Arab people, I know them, I go there a lot because I've been writing a lot about Arab countries, they may admire Turkey in a way, but they will never want to be advised by Turks. I mean, it's their pride, and they have been submitted, so they won't. So one should be much more discreet with this sort of speech, you know. This is one thing. The other thing, I don't know, you know, it's nice for me and my family to feel that now the Turks are interested in Ottoman history. They are proud of it. This is really very nice, because for so long they were just ashamed of it. So it was bad, it was black, it was only corruption, you know. They were taught in school the most terrible thing about the family and about the Ottoman Empire. Apart from the only ones who were taught about nicely were Kanuni and also Mehmet Fatih. I mean, the rest, we were all, you know. So, a lot of, but now it has come the other way. And now it's, you know, it's what one calls Ottomania. So everybody wants to be an Ottoman, everybody wants to, and many things are written which are absolutely wrong, which are just fantasy. So it's nice in a way that people are interested. I'm very glad, because also it gives the people pride. It's very important. You must have pride of your past, not to be ashamed of your past. You have to be proud. And I think this is very important. So even if there are many things which are said which are wrong, which are false, it's not so important. Important that people are interested in their past, I think.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kenize Mourad, for giving this interview, so you can catch your breath for your presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. So